An Accra High Court has struck out Dr. Kwabena Dufour's case against the conducting of the NDC's primary slated for this Saturday, May 13. Our court correspondent Joseph Akablay was in court to observe this morning's proceedings and gave this live account.
Saturday.
The issues concerning the register, have they been resolved? I mean, that is the core issue, reason why Dr. Dufour brought the matter to court. I mean, can you tell us whether you've been able to satisfy his needs in terms of that?
Say it again.
In terms of the issues surrounding the voters register, the delegates list, has it been resolved? Okay, so he's engaging further with some other members here. We'll hear from him again shortly. The General Secretary is here. We'll just join and pick that particular interview quite shortly and hear on what he has to say on the issues that have come up so far. But I mean, if you are just joining the feed, we heard from the party saying that they are going to hold it. So let's listen to what the General Secretary has to say.
All right. So we are happy that the plaintiff have decided to discontinue the case. That opens the door for us to be able to proceed with the elections tomorrow. So we want to use the opportunity to send a message to all the rank and file across all the country, all our delegates, all our aspirants, that we are ready to go right ahead with the election tomorrow. So we're going to immediately able to reach to the places. So thank you all of you for cooperation. Yeah, it's been satisfied. The delegate list is the main primary I've already explained that we will make sure every assistance is provided.
Well, let's speak with head of political desk here at JoyNews, Evans Mensah. I will be talking to him shortly, but earlier, the Electoral Commission had indicated it will be unable to supervise the election if the legal tussle were unresolved. Now, can the party count on them for tomorrow's elections? Dr. Sribo Kwaku is with the Electoral Commission. He's also joined us live. Doc, is the EC ready to supervise the primaries for the NDC now? Right, we seem to have lost Dr. Straybo there. Let me bring in head of political desk here at JoyNews, Evans Mensah. Evans, I can imagine the relief and the relief that the team is feeling after this news, because we're all confused whether we are going or coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this clears up quite a lot. Now we know we can roll out our election eve program tonight and also go ahead with our special coverage tomorrow. There's no bigger relief than to the NDC themselves. I mean, as you saw the press conference that it shows, people are already waving flags, etc. By the NDC. This was a big deal. I mean, if this had not been withdrawn by Dr. Dufour's team, it would have been a disaster possibly. So yeah, I mean, this is a big deal for the party, but also great leap for all of us who are putting great hours preparing for this and committing resources to it.
Does this in any way put John Mahama ahead in the race?
What it is I mean, it's really a presumptive outcome that John Mahama was going to win this anyway. The only question that remained was what was going to be his margin of victory. That was the central question. John Mahama was never in doubt. He was going to win it. And I believe even if you speak to Dr. Kwabena Dufour in private, when he's by himself, I'm really convinced he knows that there's only one outcome here. The real question for him had always been, how much of the votes can I take from John Mahama? Can I, for example, get 30% of the votes, 25% of the votes? That's what he's been thinking about. Because if he manages to do that, that will show that he has a significant following in the party, and John Mahama is not as popular as he thinks he is in the NDC, and that there's a significant base in the party, a significant constituency in the party still unhappy with him. That could damage him going into the elections, although he will still be the flag bearer. So John Mahama will win this, there's no doubt. The real question comes down to how much. And there's the fact that this is now out of the way. And here's the thing, though. The thing that we now will need to look at is because Dr. Dufour had started this process and almost created a massive wedge and threw a huge spanner in the works that may have led to a no-show tomorrow. How are delegates going to react to that? Will the delegates punish him for doing this and putting them on tenterhooks and leaving everybody uncertain? Or will the delegates see their argument that they were actually fighting for them? Because some of them were not in the register and their details have been taken away, and they may end up going to the polls tomorrow and realizing that their details were not there. That is a tricky one. And already I've seen people within the John Mahama camp using that as a campaign message. That look at the man who claims that he wants to lead the party. He is embarking on an anti-party crusade by dragging the party to court. The question is, well, how are the delegates going to react to that? And that is a key thing going forward. It may damage Dr. Dufour even more tomorrow.
Well, by now, the whole of Ghana and even the world know that where to stay for this coverage is on your election headquarters here at JoyNews. What should audiences expect on all platforms?
So we start tonight from 8 to 10 p.m. We have our Election Eve special. Myself and Winston Amma will anchor that. Kofi J, who has been our Rock of Gibraltar, coordinating the research with Winston, will produce some fascinating work, fascinating research work that will really be the anchor around which we do this analysis. Always when we roll out election eves, it is to set the tone for the next day. And this is where we help you appreciate what is about to happen the next day. We're going to be analyzing all the aspirants, mainly the presidential aspirants, the three of them, their chances, their history, their electoral history. And I'm talking about internal party history, the contest they've run before, their own history when it comes to other elections they've run, and the sort of momentum they are coming into this way. That will give you a fair sense of who may win and the other intricacies. And then we'll look at some of the key constituencies to watch as well and why we think they will be key in the long run. So that will be tonight. Very fascinating analysis, insight that we'll give you so you understand. When you join us tomorrow, you have a fair bit. If you don't join us tonight, it will be difficult to sort of appreciate what's going to happen tomorrow. But join us tonight and you understand tomorrow. And then tomorrow, we start at 7 a.m. across all our platforms on Joy 99.7 FM, also on the JoyNews channel, but most importantly, on our many social media platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, etc., from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We expect this to end pretty quickly, just around 3 p.m., because it's decentralized across the country. We're going to have reporters in all of the key constituencies and at the party headquarters bringing you around coverage. We have some very fascinating guests joining us. Inusa Husseini will join us. We have a lot of the party bigwigs also joining us. We have some academics who will join us from the political science department of the University of Ghana, Asasante, Alibuseidu. So this is the best you can find, the best political team you can find anywhere. We're deploying all that tomorrow.
There's no doubt about that, Evans Mensah. Of course, tonight is key. You need to watch out, and because that will actually prepare you into what happens tomorrow. Where to stay is your election headquarters. Let's still stay with the NDC because the former President John Dramani Mahama, his campaign team has demanded an apology from Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia for leading an economic management team that has come to naught. The team is also demanding an apology apology from Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for failing to fulfill promises he made to his people in the Northeast region and for all the challenges facing the country. Reacting to the news about Dr. Bawumia declaring his intention to lead MPP in 2024, the spokesperson of John Dramani Mahama campaign team, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, said Ghanaians will not vote for a leader whose intentions are just calculated to deceive and scam his people. Mrs. Mokhtari, speaking in the Vice President's home region, said former President Mahama is tolerant and unified and will be elected again to save Ghana. Elias Otanko has more.
Over the past week, news emerged that Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia met caucus in Parliament and finally declared before them his intention to contest to lead the new Patriotic Party in the 2024 elections. The news comes as former President John Dramani Mahama is also seeking to be re-elected to lead the opposition NDC. The two leaders come from the north and many are already predicting stiff competition if both are elected by their respective parties. However, reacting to the news about the Vice President presidential bid, spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, said the Vice President is unfit to lead the country because he has failed to deliver the promises he made to his own people in the Northeast region.
You know, I'm traveling through Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's own constituency and I'm asking myself, where are all the promises that he made even to his own community, to the region, the Northeast? You understand? So I don't even have seen them. I'm here with you. Tell me one thing that you have seen that is different. We've been to Wale Wale, we've been to Gambaga. We are still on. Just show me one thing. The road is still undone.
According to Mrs. Mokhtari, who is also a special aide to the former president, Dr. Bawumia, rather than seeking to be president, should be apologizing to Ghanaians for all the challenges of the country.
Nobody wants a leader who lies to them, a leader who carries out deceptions, a leader who scams his people, a leader whose intentions are just calculated to deceive. I believe that is not the sort of leader that we all expect. So please, if I were Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, I would go home and sit and reconsider my position. Or I'll apologize to the good people of Ghana for all the promises I made that have totally failed. I will apologize for all the challenges to do with our economy and the fact that he has actually run Ghana into a ditch. I'll apologize for leading an economic management team that has come to naught and done absolutely nothing, for promising to arrest the dollar and failing to do so, for knowing that there's money in the Bank of Ghana and in the votes and that you work there that have all come to a standstill and have completely failed. I think that the leader that Ghana wants at this time is not one who is preoccupied by power, by lies, by falsehoods, and by insults.
Madam Joyce Bawa Mokhtari was speaking in the home region of the Vice President, where the former president was campaigning for his re-election. Meanwhile, the Northeast Regional Executive of the NDC have declared their support for the former president. Speaking on behalf of the executives, the regional chairman, Abdul Rauf Tanko, urged all the party delegates to give John Dramani Mahama 100% vote on Saturday, May 13th.
We shouldn't use these elections we are going into. I don't think there is somebody who doesn't feel the hardship inflicted on us by the Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government. Is there anybody here? The best person who can rescue us from the difficulties is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
The 2.5-day tour of the Northeast region took Mr. Mahama and his team to all 6 constituencies in the region, where he respectively met with the party stakeholders, including delegates and the newly elected parliamentary aspirants. Addressing the party supporters, Mr. Mahama then appeals to the party delegates to vote for him to lead the party. He also assured to resource the party constituency and branch level executives and promised a reward scheme for them after victory in 2024.
And we're going to put the ballot box in your care. We have to make sure that nothing untoward happens. We're going to let you select party agents, we'll go and train them, and we'll get the best people to come and sit at the polling station. And on 7 December 2024, none of us is going to sleep until we have finished counting both the parliamentary and presidential, and we have signed our polling sheets, and the collation has been completed before we go to bed. And for every constituency that is able to give us their results and their pin sheets by 12 midnight, that constituency is going to get a handsome reward. And then also for the branches, we're going to look at the 2020 results, and then we're going to give you a target to increase those results. If you're able to achieve that target of increasing the results and exceed it, all the 9-member branch executives in that branch are going to receive a handsome reward.
Elias Sutanku reporting from Nalerigo for Joy News.
The Bono East Regional Office of the NDC, as part of the party's preparations towards the upcoming parliamentary and presidential primaries, organized a day's workshop to educate aspirants and agents on the do's and don'ts of the upcoming primaries. Regional Communications Officer of the party, Suleiman Mustafa, emphasized the move is aimed at empowering the agents as well as ensuring peace before, during, and after the polls. Anna Sabit once again reports.
Ahead of the NDC's parliamentary and presidential primaries scheduled to take place this Saturday, May 13th, the Bono East Regional Office of the party held a day's workshop for all aspirants and their agents across the region's 11 constituencies to educate them on the rules and regulations governing the polls. Regional Communications Officer Suleiman Mustafa noted that the move would help expose the agents to the do's and don'ts of the electoral process.
As we are aware, we are going into parliamentary and presidential primaries. And this is the first time such a thing is happening, combining both parliamentary and presidential elections. Definitely, we are going to have polling agents, we are going to have aspirants. And this kind of elections is not like a general one, whereby maybe a day or 2 days to elections, there's no campaign. Even on the campaign grounds, there's going to be people campaign. On the election day, there's going to be people campaigning. So we've brought the aspirants and their agents to teach them the do's and don'ts of the election day, and as well as ballot accounting, so that as an internal elections, at the end of the day, we wouldn't have any crowns coming from any camp. So this is the main reason why we brought the 11 constituencies, the aspirants with their agents to come and learn what we want them to do on Saturday.
Former Regional Secretary of the party and a member of the training team, Mohammed Shamsuddin, emphasized that the move forms part of the party's quest towards enhancing its workforce in the build-up to the 2024 general elections.
It is incumbent on any serious political party preparing for a bigger election to do a household, if I call it a household chore, that is to try to sensitize your, your human resource, those who are to man the election. This is an internal election. But don't forget, after the internal election, we're going to face the bigger picture, which is the 2024 election. Because, you know, when you have a good agent, election is about agent. If you have a good agent, you are good to go. So as we've trained them, these agents are going to represent their various candidates on Saturday. After the Saturday, there's a lot of training that the party will embark on to enhance the workforce of the party toward 2024 election.
With only 2 out of the 37 candidates being women, Suleiman Mustafa expressed worry at the number of women contesting for the parliamentary polls and asked that steps are being taken to groom more women to actively participate in the party's communications team, a move that would encourage women participation in the party.
The problem we've had with women in terms of politics is the grooming. People are not giving them the opportunity. People are not grooming them. So we need to groom them and let them understand that politics is not for them. Look at the statistics. Women are the majority in the country. So why is it that politics, which is about governance, and when it comes to our homes, it is our mothers who take care of us. Then when it comes to governance, the women are left behind. So we believe with grooming, by the year 2024, Bono is per se, for that why I can put my bet on that will have a lot of women in the frontline politics.
The party currently has 8 out of the 11 constituencies of the region and are working towards winning all 11 seats in the 2024 general elections. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
Away from politics, let's do finance. Ghana's official creditors could give financing assurances to the International Monetary Fund by Friday to ensure the country secures its much-needed bailout. The financing assurances are a key step for the nation to secure $3 billion one IMF loan, sources told Reuters. My colleague George Wefe has details of the story, so he joins me in the studio for more. George, what's the basis that these financial assurances will be giving latest today?
I think that just casting your mind back, there's been a lot of work, as we also picked up over the past weeks and even leading up today, in terms of the Paris Club getting more understanding, Ghana's debt situation and all the rest. And if you follow what had transpired over the week, we got the information when the president addressed the May Day celebration, indicating that China is going to come on board. And that was one of the most critical things that we also picked up, which suggested that now the IMF board could consider Ghana's request before the close of this month. Okay. So it means that the committee or the Paris Club is going to meet today. All indications and what we are picking up seems to suggest that they might extend that financing assurance to Ghana in the form of an official letter, and that will be copied to the IMF MD's office. And then we understand that maybe the board will then accept Ghana's request to look at Ghana's program before the end of this month. Then we could have a program. And one critical thing is now China agreeing to come to the table. And if you read the Reuters story, for instance, which is corroborating a lot of things that we reported over the past weeks, now they're going to co-chair. So now China itself agreeing that they are going to sit at the table and discuss that Ghana's debt situation is enough. Again, what we should get here is that it is just an extension that we now agree that we are open to participating in the program. And that's what the IMF is looking for. The IMF is not saying that Ghana should reach an agreement with these creditors or a deal should be struck today that they are going to cancel Ghana's debt. These creditors just meeting to agree that they are now committed to participating in the financing program and that they're going to start discussions. It's enough to give the board that room to go ahead and consider Ghana's program. Some have said that maybe even next week. Some are saying that it is going to happen before the end of this month.
So what happens next? What next if it happens?
So what happens next? And again, let's see how the meeting pans out. These are still interested parties that are close to this committee. We are picking this information from. So if indeed that formal communication goes to the IMF or the MD Secretariat that, listen, they are indeed going to extend that financing assurance to Ghana. Again, get back again to what the MD has said. The IMF African Department boss has said that as soon as these creditors announce or write that they are extending this financing assurance to Ghana, then the executive board is going to meet and say that based on all these conditions, we are now approving Ghana's program request. If they are, and don't forget, these are just initial steps. Then as soon as they also approve Ghana's program, we are going to have the first tranche out of that $3 billion come to the Bank of Ghana. And we shall get this thing that the money that is coming from the IMF is for balance of payment support, to build up the reserves of the Bank of Ghana, to support the local currency and support our import needs. It is not going to government to spend or budget needs. That's why the World Bank is also coming on board. And they would then advance certain funds to government to support its budget needs and other things as well. So from what we picked up from the fund in Washington, as soon as there's a board approval today, a statement is issued, give it like 2-3 days, the transfer should be hitting a Bank of Ghana in terms of the first tranche of funds. That wouldn't be more than $1 billion or $950 million coming in to support the Bank of Ghana's reserves.
So let's look at the economy proper. I mean, what will this then mean for our economy?
I think that what people should just have at the back of their mind is that this whole IMF program and the expected positive response is not about the money. Okay. It's about the assurance that is given to donors, investors, that Ghana is now committing itself to a program, and no more of a big brother is now on board. Listen, look at what we've gone through in terms of putting in place certain laws, in terms of doing all these things, budget assurance, the IMF having a stake in our budget and all those things. That fiscal prudence that we are going to see going forward, that transparency, the fact that now for the next 3 years, we are assured of some inflow from the IMF that will go directly to the Bank of Ghana. You know what that will mean for the currency.
Yep.
All these things is going to help in the economy picking up and recovering. And it's not just because of the money. The fact that there are now laws in place, they are now going to scrutinize government expenditure in terms of being fiscal responsible and all the rest. Those things are going to convince the investors. The World Bank is going to come on board. Some donor partners are going to come on board with some advances. Some investors who were waiting on the fence because they had issues with how government was independently managing the economy are going to come on board. And all those things would then aid in the recovery of the economy. Yeah. So we shouldn't just people say that, and some will say that, oh, it's not just about the money. We're going to see more push for transparency from the IMF because of this program, that everything that government does, it will be put out through the fund program. And there's some transparency. And that is also independently going to act as a check on government to be prudent, because certain things that they were doing outside an IMF program, they cannot do it under a fund program. And all these confidence issues would then push a lot more things into the economy, open the economy, and that would aid that pickup that we are looking forward to.
George Uefe is with Joy Business, and this is something we'll be looking out for. At least by close of today, we know that something could happen as the creditors meet. So we'll be monitoring this, and definitely, you know what this means to Ghana. It's really big for us. So we'll definitely bring you more on this. Cataract, an eye condition that leads to blindness, has been identified as a prevalent disease in the Volta region. This was identified during a series of eye screening exercises organized by the Rotary Club of Ho. In line with this, the club has made known its intention to construct an eye clinic to make optical care accessible to residents to treat various conditions. More in this report.
According to data collated by Rotary Club during its eye screening exercises across the Volta region, cataract topped the chart of diseases identified. It also noted that patients suffering the condition lack access to proper care, as facilities in the region are not well equipped to treat them. An optometrist and the district governor of Rotary District 7815, Dr. Havibaz, underscored the importance of providing special care for persons suffering from eye conditions.
It has been identified that cataracts are the biggest cause of blindness in Ghana, and cataracts are actually the easiest thing to fix as long as we have the proper equipment. So far, what I've seen a lot of cataracts. I had a couple of cases of glaucoma so far, but speaking with the surgeons that work here, it's limited to how much they can treat these things, and we need to provide the service to the people of this region instead of making them travel hours away and incur expenses they can't afford.
The president of the Rotary Club of Ho, Simon Fafali Awumi, detailed that his outfit is undertaking a series of activities targeted at enhancing access to eye care.
We've also donated some health eye equipment to the Ho Teaching Hospital Eye Clinic. This is part of a series of projects that we want to do for the eye clinic, which will finally result in the construction and the provision of an eye vision center for the Ho Teaching Hospital. So Rotary Club of Ho, story-wise, as part of our areas of focus, which is disease prevention and treatment, to do this health screening as part of the process, a bigger picture for the Ho Teaching Hospital.
Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Ho.
Welcome back to Joy News Desk. And before we bring you business, in a tense and dramatic scene, emergency responders and local officials are gathered at the banks of the Volta River, bracing for a potential disaster. But this isn't a real emergency, though. It's a simulation exercise known as BAILOUT, designed to test the readiness of state agencies in the event of a dam spillage. The exercise, which is part of the Volta River Authority's emergency preparedness plan, took place in communities most at risk in the Akonsombo area, and in an unlikely event of a spill. My colleague Michael Ashali was there and now reports.
Sirens blaring at full amplitude, alerting residents of this community living near the Volta River of a possible danger. The Volta River Authority, VRA, has taken a difficult decision to open the gates of the Akonsombo Dam, causing water levels in adjoining communities to rise quickly. At Atimpoku and Jijokopa, some residents flee their home for safety. Others caught in the disaster helplessly perch on trees. It's a cry for help. Moments before the disaster, the VRA and the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, sent a warning to authorities in communities most at risk, and quickly, help is dispatched. Personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service carry the injured and the elderly to safety, while the Navy clears the waterways and rescues those caught off guard. The National Ambulance Service transfers those severely injured to the nearest health facility. Are your men there? At the Sujaman District Command Center, pressure is building on the emergency response team. On the ground, Division Officer 1 Joseph Kofi-Forson briefs the various teams on the progress of the evacuation.
So we are still sounding the alarm for people who are hiding to know that help has come. So they should all come out so that we can rescue them. That is what we are doing. We have also deployed the Navy boats. It is patrolling on the river to make sure that those who are swimming, I don't know where they are going, they will bring them back to the shore so that we evacuate them. And then again, the NADMO people are also assisting with the evacuation. So a lot of our officers are down there doing search and rescue at this moment.
The Akonsombo Dam contains millions of gallons of water. In an unlikely event that the dam exceeds its holding capacity, or worst case scenario, the force of the water cracks open the dam, it is expected that the communities downstream will flood and displace more than 300,000 individuals. Lives and properties may be lost. But this isn't a real emergency. It's a simulation exercise known as Dawohoso, designed to test the readiness of state agencies in the event of a dam spillage. The exercise, which is part of the Volta River Authority's emergency preparedness plan, is taking place in communities most at risk in the unlikely event of a spill. The exercise was conducted simultaneously in the Esujaman, Adan, and Nofton assemblies. A National Emergency Operations Center was coordinating the situation. Deputy Director General of NADMO, Saji Amedonu, is satisfied with the exercise.
I think the men have done quite well in getting the activities coordinated. There will be some shortfalls here and there. We'll be doing what we call hot watch, which you can say is a debriefing. Then we'll also do an after-action review. The report of the after-action review will form basis for doing a review of maybe the emergency preparedness plan.
Deputy Chief Executive in charge of engineering and operations at VRA, Engineer Edward Eko Obenkenzo, shares a different view.
Scale of 1 to 10, I would say maybe 6. I won't say 7. I'll say 6.
Engineer Obenkenzo, however, suggests that the simulation should be conducted regularly.
It's every 10 years. That's what we are supposed to do. But I would say that from all the meetings that were conducted, And because some of the people in the various agencies also change over the period, the 10 years is a very long time. So those who have experienced before, the next 10 years, they may not be there. So those who come in will be new people. So you can't say they have a very perfect plan. Everybody comes with whatever they've experienced before from the other agencies and help you to build the plan. So I consider from the discussion, the new revised plan, I would say that we can move us up to like 7, up to maybe 7.5.
Director in charge of engineering services at VRA, Engineer Kweku Wiafi says the lessons of the simulation will guide the team to enhance their response to emergencies.
Of course, it wasn't all perfect. There are a few areas that we think we could improve. But at the end of the exercise, that's the whole purpose of testing. I mean, you test to identify gaps, to identify weaknesses. We are going to look at those gaps and weaknesses and then come up with protocols that will address all those gaps and weaknesses. The idea is to prepare for the real one. We don't know when it's going to happen and we wish it never happens, but we still feel that readiness, being ready, is critical.
Certainly, we are hoping that as a country, we will be prepared not just when the dam decides to break, but in other disasters that may happen across the country. For Joy News, Michael Ashali.
Welcome to business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Fast-moving consumer goods company Unilever Ghana PLC is projecting a positive turnover for the year on the back of many challenges it has overcome in the last 2 years. According to Managing Director George Osu-Ansah, the company has recovered and began making profit for the first quarter of the year after recording losses since 2019. He was speaking to some selected journalists in Accra. Yes, more. Unilever Ghana PLC has recorded losses since 2019 when the COVID-19 pandemic struck and affected its supply chain, which forced the company to diversify. It has, however, reduced the losses within a short time and began the year 2023 showing signs of potential profit at the end of the year. The company is expanding in production capacity as well as improving on efficiency. Speaking at a media engagement in Accra, Managing Director for Unilever, George Osu-Ansah, expressed confidence of a rebound.
In spite of all this, we have turned the corner. And if I were to summarize what I think we have done over the last 3 years and where we are today, I would say together we have done a lot. We have overcome the challenges and difficulties of 2019. We still have a lot to do. And so it is not a time for complacency. A lot to do to rediscover the greatness of this amazing company, a company that I have worked for many years.
Mr. Osu-Ansah also assured Unilever is committed to leveraging technology to reach out to more people across the country.
50,000 stores, 60,000 stores, we still are not covering every part of that. But we've got into a place where, as you can imagine, the last mile is very expensive because the return from the last mile is very low. The cost to serve the last mile is high, the return is low. How do we, through digitization, make sure that we can assess everyone efficiently? So strengthening our route to market, strengthening our customers becomes very, very important. And in Nanaya's area, our brands. And those of you in the media, I'm sure many of you would have encountered Billy already. You drive around, you see our billboards. I'm sure when you switch on your TVs, you see us. How do we improve the power of our brands in the minds of our consumers so that they try our brands and they experience what is good about our brand?
Unilever was among the top 5 gainers on the Ghana Stock Exchange during the month of April. Now, some 163 tertiary students have gained scholarships to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics courses at various Ghanaian public institutions through the benevolence of Goldfields Ghana Foundation. There's more in this report.
The 163 beneficiaries, comprising of 84 males and 79 females, as well as 2 persons with disability, are brilliant but needy students carefully selected from the host communities of Takwa and Daman. Each beneficiary is expected to receive 7,000 cedis every academic year, which is subjected to withdrawal of the student who fails to perform. According to the Regional Community Relations Manager of Goldfields, Robert Siao, the initiative is the recognition of higher education and skilled youth to the economic development of the country.
The young generation are our future, and it is the state duty of all of us, including the youth themselves, to do whatever we can to encourage them to be the best of their opportunities. The contribution of higher education and skilled youth to economic development need not be overemphasized. No laudable development agenda will be successful without quality education and skillful population. That is why Go First, as a socially responsible company and committed to genuine sustainable development, has taken to the path of human development in the area which we operate. We are happy to award these scholarships to support the development of skilled manpower. We believe that for the huge unemployment challenge facing Ghana to be abated, we must support initiatives that makes education more relevant to the world of work.
The Executive Secretary of Goldfields Ghana Foundation, Abdul Razak Yakubu, noted the gesture is targeted at creating an employment pool. He further urged the beneficiaries to exhibit socially acceptable behaviors whilst on campus.
We encourage you to exhibit socially acceptable behavior on your various campuses. Some of our resource persons have already tagged on that. As a scholarship beneficiary, a Goldfields Ghana Foundation scholarship beneficiary, you have agreed to be an ambassador of Goldfields. If you don't accept the role, we've given you acceptance forms. You can choose not to sign it and return it to us. We will gladly accept it and pass the scholarship to somebody else from your own community who also qualifies. But if you sign the acceptance letter and return it to us, you have agreed to be an ambassador of Goldfields. And what does it mean to be an ambassador of Goldfields? It means you have agreed to live the Goldfields values. Key amongst them is respect. Key amongst them is respect, especially to authority. Back on campus, we will not want to hear of you meddling in issues that result on disrespect or putting up unhealthy attitudes.
Some beneficiaries shared how helpful the scholarship will be to their education.
My dad is not really that, well-to-do, so he actually took a loan to sponsor my first year education. So when you went to school, the school actually opened us up to some of the scholarships available, and then I decided to take some of them and then try it. And then I had the Goldfields scholarship, and I think it's one of the best around, and it will really help me.
I think this scholarship is going to help me a lot because the program that I'm reading, it requires a lot. If you look at the equipment that we are buying and all, we need laptops and all this, and it's really expensive. So like, if I can't, my parents can afford, but not all that much. So I think this class is going to help me a lot in my studies.
I'm advising the parents to use or to invest more to help their wards to complete their education so that they can get the Goldfields Foundation benefit as a scholarship.
In Athalia Kwansa, JoyNews, Takwa.
All right, and that's it for business, and that pretty much wraps up the news. So I'm handing you back to Aisha. Aisha?
Definitely. That's how we wrap up the bulletin this morning. Daryl, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Great. So you log on to myjoyonline.com. That's where you find all of the news and updates of all the developing stories. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. See you again at 12.